First Class Productions.
The year was 2000, the actual year of the dragon in the Chinese zodiac. The PlayStation was nearing the end of its life, but it still had one more purple gem to give. After two successful adventures, Spyro Year of the Dragon arrived to close out the trilogy and with it, kinda the 90s mascot era itself. Developed once again by Insomniac Games, this third entry promised more levels, more collectibles and more characters. Because clearly what everyone wanted from Spyro was less Spyro? What made it even more impressive was its short development time, as this was the third Spyro game in just 3 years. I first played Year of the Dragon about a year later. By then the PlayStation 2 was already out, but for me, Spyro's world still felt like the peak of 3D platforming. Back then I was convinced this was the best game in the series. It felt bigger, smoother and somehow even more magical than before. Years later, when I moved away from home and my brother and I split our PlayStation collection, he only wanted to keep 4 games, and this was one of them. I recently bought it again, so I haven't played this PAL version in at least 15 years. On PS3 I downloaded it a decade ago, but that was the NTSC version, which runs like absolute garbage. So I'm genuinely looking forward to revisiting the version I grew up with. Join me as I find out if Spyro Year of the Dragon still burns as bright as it once did.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom Reviews.
The story begins during the Year of the Dragon Festival, a celebration of hundreds of newly laid dragon eggs across the realms. Everything is peaceful until a mysterious cloaked figure sneaks in and steals every single one of them. The thief escapes through a portal to the Forgotten Worlds, a land that was sealed off from the dragon realms for 1,000 years. The dragons are too old and lazy to do anything about it, so naturally they send the smallest one they have, Spyro, along with his trusty dragonfly companion Sparx. Hunter decides to tag along too, mostly to provide backup and comic relief, though not always in that order. The thief turns out to be a rabbit named Bianca, working for the evil Sorceress, who clearly has her own reasons for wanting the dragon eggs, though her true motives aren't revealed yet. Still, one has to wonder where all these eggs even came from, considering there are only male dragons in the entire trilogy. Apparently, biology in the dragon realms work on magic and denial. This time around we get 4 home worlds, each themed after a different time of day, and we kick things off in Sunrise Spring. The home worlds are completely enemy-free, so you can relax, explore, and headbutt random jars without anyone trying to murder you. Visually, the game looks almost identical to Spyro 2, and gameplay-wise, nothing has really changed either. Spyro still has the same moveset, the same controls, and thankfully, he still remembers all those special abilities he learned last time. Diving, ladder climbing, head bashing, all intact. Finally, a sequel where the protagonist doesn't wake up with severe plot-convenient amnesia. Unfortunately, Zoe and Hunter haven't updated their software, because they still feel the need to explain things like, this is how a camera works, or this is how you glide. Thanks guys, I've only done this for 2 full games already, but yes, it's useful for new players. What has changed is the main collectible. We're not rescuing adult dragons anymore, and we're not fetching shiny orbs either. This time we're collecting dragon eggs, which hatch the moment we pick them up. Each baby has a unique name and their own little animation, at least until the game starts looping them. Bianca pops in from time to time to threaten us, which is cute.
If I find you here again, I am going to be very angry. And you won't like me when I'm angry.
Superfly power-ups are still around and some levels are locked behind egg requirements, so if you've played Spyro 2, you'll feel right at home. There's even a special task for Sparx, though we cannot do that yet. But of course, nothing ruins a perfect morning like everyone's least favorite tax collector, moneybags. The gem-grabbing bear is back, looking smugger than ever. This time he has kidnapped a kangaroo named Sheila and refuses to let her go until we cough up the cash. Truly a creature without a soul. I always say no first, just to hear what he comes up with, and in this game he's even more of an asshole about it.
Well, don't worry, Spyro. Sheila won't stay in jail forever. The Sorceress is thinking about having her executed next Thursday.
Oh, now you're guilt-tripping me? Fine, take the gems, you monster. At least Sheila gives him what he deserves later.
I'm just doing my job.
Once freed, she invites Spyro to visit her anytime. Sunrise Spring is a solid introduction. It's not as cozy as Artisans or as magical as Summer Forest, but it sets the stage well for everything that comes next. It makes sense to visit Sheila's Alp first, and I'll explain why later. As a kid, this place melted my tiny brain because suddenly we're not Spyro anymore. We're a kangaroo with legs so powerful they could probably kick the moon out of orbit. Sheila can jump, double jump, triple jump, stomp, and karate kick. The catch is that she jumps straight up but not forward, which feels oddly stiff. She's incredibly fast too, and trying to turn while kicking feels slippery. Not terrible, but you'll need a minute to adapt. The goal is to escort 3 Swiss goats with German accents to their houses, and the game has the audacity to call them Billy, Pete, and Bobby.
It's okay, Zo. Bobby, Pete, and I are working on a clever plan to take them back.
Really, Insomniac? You're giving me a whole country known for Alphorns, cheese, and overly efficient watches, and you choose Billy, Pete, and Bobby? Why not Hans, Josef, and Walter?
In Spyro 1, the enemies were mostly Norks. Here, Rhinox fill the game, but Sheila chews through them. Same for Rocks. Damn, she's strong. Enemies are back to giving you gems when they're defeated, which I very much prefer to how it was in Spyro 2. Especially upon revisiting a level, it could be annoying to defeat a certain amount of foes to activate a portal. Near the end, the Rhinox even respawn unless you stomp the little mushroom huts, which feels both heroic and mildly illegal. The level is short and simple. What'll probably happen is that you'll miss stuff because the game loves hiding them on high ledges or behind random walls you have to kick into oblivion. Thankfully, I didn't need to backtrack this time. This is Sheila's only full level, and it's definitely memorable, mostly due to
Hans, Josef, and Walter.
Deep down though, I think we're all a little relieved she didn't become the star of Spyro 4, The Legend of Sheila. Time to tackle the first proper level with Spyro, and Sunny Villa wastes no time showing off. This place is basically this world's version of ancient Rome. Everything is bright, cheerful, and full of lions wearing tongas. As tradition demands, the small enemies panic the moment they see Spyro, so naturally we do the heroic thing and wipe them out anyway. The big Rhinox swing around enormous chicken clubs, which instantly makes me crave dinner and question the moral fabric of this world. A new feature in Year of the Dragon is that almost every level has multiple portals leading to side activities, and if a portal has a sign in front of it, you know it's time to abandon Spyro and play as someone else. In this case we get Sheila again, and if you skipped Sheila's Alp earlier, this portal would be locked.
And that's why we did Sheila's Alp first, kids.
She only has to hop through a short section to help Marco rescue his beloved. As always, there are corners you can easily miss. The big set piece is a tower you need to climb. Just don't look down.
What? Marco sent you here? I've got a restraining order against him.
Even in the Forgotten Realms, romance can be a flaming train wreck. The second portal introduces Spyro to skateboards because it was the year 2000 and everything needed skateboards. Hunter teaches us the basics. For now we chase lizards around the park and the controls are surprisingly smooth. Turning feels great, jumping too, and if we crash, the game hands us a new board. After that, we need to catch all 15 lizards in one go under a time limit, which is straightforward enough. Even though Hunter never teaches us tricks, we can still try to beat his high score for a skill point. Yes, those mysterious skill points are back, and it's our noble duty to find out what they actually are. At the end of each main level, one of the locals makes his way to the home world. Sunny Villa is Year of the Dragon in a nutshell. It's bright, silly, energetic, and more fun than it has any right to be. Bianca confronts Spyro and Hunter, but kind of fails to make an impression on Spyro. Hunter, though...
Say, is it just me? Or is she kinda cute when she's angry?
Oh boy. In Cloud Spires, our job is to turn the cloud generator back on by activating all of the bellows. Of course, Moneybags shows up to ruin the weather report.
What? No? What else are you going to do with all those gems? Buy flying lessons? That was a good one.
Low blow, Moneybags. Low blow. There are 2 challenges in this stage. The first has us guide 3 sun seeds to a lava fusion pod, so they can create a brand new sun. When you flame them, they wobble forward for a few steps, but they will go out if you don't reignite them fast enough, though this is rarely an issue. Gotta love a sun wearing sunglasses. The second challenge is even easier. You just roast a bunch of spirits floating around the sky. At this point, I should have been done, but nope, I was missing 5 gems. 5. And of course, I couldn't let it go. I ran around this level for half an hour, losing my sanity one cloud at a time. The portals make it worse because now every tiny pocket of the world is a potential gem prison.
It was a complete waste of time because later in the game there's an easy way to find missing gems, but I was too stubborn to quit and too proud to admit defeat.
The level looks nice and has a dreamy atmosphere, but honestly, I find it pretty unremarkable otherwise. Although, it's only one of 3 main levels where you don't play as any of the other characters, so that's something, I guess. By now, Molten Crater should be unlocked, and the moment you step inside, you might get flashbacks to Magma Cone. Except the locals here are way more relaxed about the fact that their entire world is slowly cooking. There's a closed portal with a little Byrd sign in front of it, which strongly hints at our next playable character. Of course, Moneybags is blocking the way again. Get lost, loser. Do you hear that?
That thief is taunting me!
They were one of my favorite parts of the first game, and I was genuinely disappointed that they only showed up in a single level in Spyro 2. So I'm very happy to report that the thieves make a full comeback here. It makes perfect sense with all these dragon eggs lying around. As usual, I pick up every gem first before I give the thief my undivided attention. After catching him, the supercharge activates and there's a second thief waiting. I'll admit, it always takes me a moment to adjust to the controls of this thing because the D-pad is extremely sensitive. Eventually I got the hang of it. Locked chests that require keys also return. I like Molten Crater, but I cannot shake the feeling that it's kind of a lesser version of Magma Cone. The thief chases do help it stand out though, and hearing that annoying laugh again warms my heart almost as much as the lava. Speaking of levels that remind me of earlier entries, Seashell Shore gives me huge Aquaria Towers energy. That doesn't have to be a bad thing though. I mean, look at those adorable chickens. Plus, large chunks of the level actually take place outside, so it does manage to carve out its own identity, even if it borrows a few ideas from Nork Cove on the side. Sheila also gets some action here, and this time she has to destroy sand and metal blocks around the fortress, so the seals can blast it into the sky. To my surprise, it took me a few tries to get it right. The time limit is strict and her stiff controls don't exactly make things easier. Unfortunately, it doesn't improve from here. Spyro has to defeat a shark submarine while riding a speedboat, and boy, this thing controls like it's possessed by a confused sea spirit. I'm not even going to bother explaining it, just look at it. If you take your time and avoid panicking, it's doable, but the terrible steering makes the whole thing feel like a punishment for crimes I didn't commit. And if that wasn't enough, there's a third portal where you're pulled through a water tunnel and have to defeat every single Rhinoc. Miss one and you start from scratch. Again, the controls are so sensitive and nothing about it feels natural. Through trial and error, you can beat it, but out of all 3 challenge portals in Seashell Shore, I didn't enjoy a single one. So while I genuinely like the main level, these sections drag it down faster than Spyro sinking in a puddle. With all the main levels cleared, the locals across Sunrise Spring have kindly built a balloon so Spyro can continue his journey. But we're not leaving yet. Tradition demands a speedway, and Mushroom Speedway is waiting for us with open arms and questionable design choices. It starts out like the classic Spyro 2 time attacks, where you fly through rings and flame spiders and flowers and butterflies under a strict timer. Miss one and you mutter something unpleasant, but if you've played any previous speedway, you'll sleepwalk through this. The big twist is that Sparx suddenly talks.
Oh, sorry, I mean, what the fuck?
And just when you're wondering if reality is collapsing, Hunter shows up hiding somewhere and he gives us a challenge where we actually play as him. It usually involves sheep and flying saucers, which I honestly find hilarious. The camera, though, is so close to Hunter's ridiculous little plane. The hitbox feels wonky and the guns sound like someone's shaking a bag of spoons. On top of that, every speedway has a race and we start in the 6th place behind a group of butterflies who seem to be professional athletes. You chase them by flying through rings, and if you miss one, the race ends instantly. Blue stars give you a speed boost. Personally, I love the races and highly welcome them. Overall, Mushroom Speedway is harmless fun, but Hunter's desperate need to shove his aircraft directly into the camera really drags it down. We've done everything we can do here, so let's hop into the balloon and head to Midday Gardens. I kinda miss Marco the balloonist though. He had a strong work ethic. Meanwhile, the Sorceress is fed up with Bianca's failed attempts to stop us and orders her to create a monster that will finally kill Spyro. Bianca hesitates because deep down she's not a murderer, but she goes through with it and creates this thing. So welcome to Buzz's dungeon, where we fight what is essentially an angry toad. Sheila helps by dropping off sheep and stomping Buzz's head, which is nice of her. The fight itself is incredibly easy. You knock Buzz into the lava, avoid his sad little attacks, and repeat until he turns into toast. Don't get me wrong, this is already better than anything we saw in Spyro 1, with maybe Metalhead being the lone exception, but it doesn't come close to the boss fights in Spyro 2. Forgettable character, forgettable fight, but it shows up, does its job, and politely leaves before anyone asks for a refund. Upon arrival in Midday Gardens, Bianca shows up again to warn Spyro. This time it sounds like she actually means well, like she's trying very hard to be threatening while her conscience is screaming in the background.
I'm telling you this for your own good, you know.
This homeworld has an icy cave, a portal that only opens if you spit a rock at the target, and a blue thief sprinting around. Come here, you little rascal! And of course Moneybags is here too, because if there's a new world, he'll find a way to ruin it. This time he has trapped a penguin in a cage, and naturally, we free him.
What a sucker. That is, it's a far, far better thing you do today, Spyro, than you have ever done, and, well, so forth, etc. You get the idea.
Byrd. James Byrd.
I always appreciate the James Bond reference, especially when it comes from a penguin with military discipline.
Moneybags gets what he deserves. Aside from a little flame all the flower pots challenge, there's not much to do here outside of exploring and collecting. But somehow this still ends up being my most beloved homeworld in the entire game. Maybe it's the peaceful atmosphere, maybe it's the music, who knows. But Midday Gardens just hits the right notes for me. Where do we go now? There's no way in hell I'm not checking out the penguin. Sergeant Byrd's base has been overrun by Rhinox and it's up to James Byrd to fix everything. Apparently he's the only one in the entire realm with a military budget. And just look at him. This is peak character design. I will die on this hill. The giant eyes, the stiff little waddle, the fact that he talks like a serious action hero while looking like this, it's perfection.
I have to train the hummingbirds. They must be in peak physical condition if we're going to take on the Sorceress.
Hold the jump button and he actually flies as long as you want. Spyro should take notes. He also carries unlimited rockets and he can pick up and drop objects wherever he pleases.
I know not everyone likes this character, but to me, he's the undisputed champ of the sidecast.
This level is big and pretty slow paced, but I actually love that about it. It gives you time to enjoy the sheer chaos of Byrd blowing everything to Kingdom Come. Even blasting those panicking little moles into cosmic dust is weirdly satisfying, and yes, that probably says something about me. Manual aiming works surprisingly well, and it's the method I'd recommend. Overall, this level is a delightful change of pace, unless you're desperately searching for one last gem and losing your mind. Sergeant Byrd continues to be the Penguin King we never deserved, but absolutely needed.
I have assessed the situation. We need 5 men to operate the whirligig.
Fine, I'll hop back into the balloon and return to Sunrise Spring. Now we can finally talk to Zoe and she reveals that Sparx gets his own level called Crawdad Farm. First she gives us a quick tutorial and the controls are simple enough. Then Sparx suddenly whips out the ability to shoot and my entire worldview collapses.
Excuse me, Sparx? You could do this the whole time?
Why didn't you help me while I was being mauled by attack frogs?
They are cold-blooded killers.
I'm trying not to take it personally.
Anyway, he can shoot, strafe, charge and pick up power-ups, so the whole thing basically turns into a tiny arcade shooter. There's only one egg at the end, so most of your time is spent listening to the horrible shooting sound effect blaring through your speakers. If that sound weren't so aggressively unpleasant, I'd enjoy this a lot more. All Sparx levels share the same vibe. They're maze-like and you'll be hunting down colored keys to unlock new rooms. Sparx even has a life bar, which almost feels illegal for a playable character in the Spyro universe. At the end you find a giant crawdad. Well, giant from Sparx's point of view. The strategy is simply to strafe and shoot until he gives up on existence. It's a fun little detour, a nice change of pace, but nothing that will change your life unless your life has been severely lacking in armed dragonflies. While we're here, we might as well pop back into Molten Crater for Sergeant Byrd's portal. This time our mission is to find 5 idol heads and return them to their respective bodies, except the game doesn't actually care which head belongs to which body, which once again proves that deep down, we're all the same confused statue. The only annoyance here is that the toucans respawn after a while, and with the camera not always cooperating, they can be hard to see. But there's a fun twist. If you place all the idol heads in the center instead of on their bodies, they all start doing a little dance and you earn a skill point for encouraging this artistic expression. It's a nice touch and a pretty decent challenge for a side mission tucked away in a lava pit. With that, we've wrapped up the Sunrise Spring chapter. Well, except for those cursed 5 gems in Cloud Spires. Back in Midday Gardens, we jump straight into Icy Peak, where Bob wants to meet Doug for some innocent ice fishing. But the Rhinox have blocked the path because they hate happiness. The level hands us a bunch of cannons and we blast away ice blocks and those familiar vultures from Canyon Speedway. Thankfully, the cannons don't fire real cannonballs. They shoot these easy to aim projectiles that even I can hit things with. Then we meet the TNT rats, and these things freak me out on a spiritual level. If you look closely, you'll see cracks on the ice, but they're miles away. Being trapped under ice is one of my biggest fears, so Icy Peak is really doing me a favor here. One portal takes us to another supercharged thief chase, and again there are 2 of them. I kept messing up jumps and swan diving into the abyss. Finally! Meanwhile, Doug casually admits he put the ice blocks there on purpose. Thanks for making me do manual labor, Doug. And then comes possibly my most dreaded minigame. Obviously, I'm not paying money bags for it.
What? You don't want to pay? What are you saving your money for? Another sequel?
How dare you break the 4th wall? Of course I'm talking about Nancy the Skater. We have to protect her from morally bankrupt hockey players whose sole purpose in life is to catapult this poor girl into orbit. There are several problems. We're on ice, so everything is slippery. The challenge is pure trial and error because unless you magically know where the hockey players spawn, you'll always be just too late. Fail once and you redo the entire thing from scratch. The music is the single worst track in my humble but correct opinion. It's so annoying that by the 10th attempt I started bargaining with moneybags to make it stop. When the applause finally kicked in at the end, I felt liberated. So while I genuinely love Icy Peak for its chilly atmosphere, the Nancy section ruins it for me. Spyro and Hunter arrive just in time to watch Bianca completely botch her magic and get swallowed by the monster she just summoned. Suddenly Hunter grows a spine and dives in. Spyro is not thrilled about this subplot. Then we head into Enchanted Towers, where the villagers were forced to build a giant statue of the Sorceress, a towering monument to their suffering, which they now want to blow sky high. I can respect that. The level is huge and has been infested by flying geckos that look like someone combined a frog, a chicken, and a traumatic childhood memory. If I had to award the ugliest creatures in the trilogy, these things would win before the ceremony even started. The best way to get rid of them is to yeet rocks straight into their faces, which gets tedious fast. Under the remains of the blown up statue is the second skateboard course, and this time it's all about performing tricks. By pressing triangle and the D-pad, you suddenly become Tony Hawk Jr., doing flips and spins that probably violate several laws of physics. Hunter challenges you to a freestyle competition, which he loses immediately. But then there's the course record, which took me 20 minutes of my life. This doesn't offer the finesse of real skating games from the era, but considering he's a tiny dragon on a freaking skateboard, the controls are shockingly decent. Then there's the wholesome quest where a villager has lost his pet wolf Farley, and we escort the little guy home by solving puzzles that involve spitting balls onto pressure pads. The best part is watching Rhinox panic and run for their lives the moment Farley trots in like he owns the place. The most unique thing about Enchanted Towers though is that it lets you play as Sergeant Byrd inside the main level, which never happens anywhere else and kind of feels special. While flying around, you run into a very familiar face, which means yes, it's bone collecting time again, and as always, one of those slimy lizards hits so well that I question whether he even existed. Do your thing, buddy. This never gets old. I usually don't get excited when this stage comes up, but aside from the geckos from hell, it's better than I ever gave it credit for. Now things get spooky, because Spooky Swamp is where Spyro 3 looks you dead in the eyes and says, "You thought this game was normal,
Did you?
The locals here speak entirely in haiku, and not casually either.
That gator was mean. I thought I was a gunner. Thanks for saving me.
Every conversation is a little 575 poem delivered with confidence.
And no, I'm not speaking haiku for the rest of the level because that would drive all of us into early retirement.
The swamp water is filled with piranhas, which means one dip and Spyro becomes an appetizer. Ugh, not you again.
Dadgummit, dragon, just cough up those stinking gems, and I can go home.
Stop ripping me off. You'll get what's coming to you. Need a new bear pelt.
Light 4 T-lamps and you unlock a mini-boss fight, which should be exciting, but the background music is so relaxed. The boss throws bombs, you throw them back, and occasionally crocodiles show up to get roasted. Very thrilling. But then the real horror begins. The Sheila Escort Challenge. This is like the Alchemist from Spyro 2, but somehow worse, which shouldn't be physically possible.
Will you escort me?
Eskortierst du mich? Eskortierst du mich?
Eskortierst du mich?
You must escort 2 fireflies carrying explosives. They take the most chaotic routes imaginable, bumping into everything, turning without warning, and generally behaving like they've never existed in physical space before. One mistake sends you right back to the start. The first run is pure blind guessing because the game refuses to tell you where they plan to go. You'd think you can clear the path ahead of time.
No.
The mushrooms grow back after a while because they hate you. What? The rocks respawn too? Nature saw my suffering and made it worse.
I don't believe it. Rocks are falling from the sky. This game hates my guts.
The second Firefly escort is where my soul left my body. Earlier, I said Nancy the Skater was the worst challenge in the game. I take that back with my whole chest. The Sheila escort in Spooky Swamp is the single most miserable challenge in the trilogy. It's the Alchemist on steroids wearing clown shoes. If this nonsense didn't exist, I'd call this a charming little level, but this challenge is so aggressively terrible it reaches out of the screen and ruins your day. Bamboo Terrace brings out a little Chinese flair, and it's so straightforward it practically plays itself. Our mission is simple. Help the pandas by wiping out every Rhinoc in sight so they can open a new path for us. At one point we need to save 3 pandas, which I did.
If only there were 3 of us, I'm sure we could reach that switch to open the drawbridge.
Open your eyes, there are 3 of you standing right here. Hello? Is anyone home?
Is this a glitch?
I even threw myself off a cliff hoping that would reset their brains, but no.
If only there were 3 of us.
Turn around, you idiot! Count yourselves! Do basic math! In the end, I had to leave the level, re-enter, and suddenly they magically understood that they existed. Incredible. We also spot a new animal sign which hints at a future Yeti adventure, and I'm already excited for that. Bamboo Terrace also brings back the question mark jars, the little mystery pots that teleport across the level every time you smash one. Oddly, these only appear here and in Charmed Ridge. For now, we only have access to one challenge, where Spyro hops on a boat and we enter a first-person turret segment shooting Rhinocs. It's incredibly easy. And that kinda sums up Bamboo Terrace. This level is so generic it practically evaporates from your memory the moment you leave. The best part is probably the thief chase that goes around the entire map, but even that feels like I'm really digging for compliments. Country Speedway is up next, and even though it's not that hard, it still took me 4 tries to beat. It's obviously easier to just fly and flame the tractors, but no, my primal instinct was to ram every vehicle head first. Then Hunter appears with his unhinged hatred for sheep saucers and space cows, straps on a jetpack and starts blasting everything with lasers. We just point the reticle while he does the dirty work. But if you miss even one target, the game throws you back to the start. The whole thing is so painfully slow that repeating it feels like serving a life sentence. Then comes the race against pigs and planes, and these little farm animals don't mess around. It took me 3 attempts to win because if you don't grab every single star, the pigs leave you in the dust and laugh at you from their tiny aircraft. Rockets let you shoot the pigs out of the sky, which is morally questionable. It's definitely not one of my favorite speedways, but aside from Hunter's never-ending sheep-related meltdown, it's really not that bad. By stepping onto the whirly gig, we trigger a cutscene where the Sorceress loses her temper over Bianca's continued failure to get rid of Spyro. So she does what any reasonable villain would do and creates a new monster herself, Spike. In Spike's arena, Sergeant Byrd swoops in to assist us by dropping ammunition from above. The fight itself isn't groundbreaking. You knock rocks into Spike, fire whatever Byrd drops, avoid his blasts, and don't get too close unless you want to be turned into purple paste. The trick is patience, because this fight is more demanding than the first. first. It probably ranks as the best boss battle in the game. Still, it's over so quickly that it barely has time to leave an impression. What does stick with me is how suspiciously similar a later boss in the first Ratchet & Clank looks to Spike. As if Insomniac looked at this guy and said, we can do this again, but better. As we enter Evening Lake, Bianca straight up tells Spyro about the Sorceress' plans, urging him and Hunter to get out while they still can. Thanks for the warning, lady, but we have handled far worse than discount swamp monsters. The third homeworld immediately stands out because most of its portals are underwater, which gives the whole place this dreamy atmosphere. There's a giant whale casually swimming around. Oh crap, I just became dinner! Poor whale, I let him gulp me down just so I could steal an egg he'd already eaten. I bet he's hungry now. Naturally, Moneybags is here too, guarding a yeti named Bentley and demanding 1,000 gems for his freedom.
Where are you getting all this money, Spyro? It's not just lying around on the ground, is it? Is it?
This better be worth it.
Why, you brazenly avaricious, duplicitous, larcenous ursine!
Now, hold on!
One more, perhaps? At least.
Worth it. Bentley is unusually well spoken for a gigantic ice monster, and his polite British tone makes him instantly iconic. Evening Lake is a wonderfully chill homeworld that shakes up the usual formula in all the right ways. Consider me a fan. In Bentley's Outpost, our newly playable Yeti has to help his younger brother Bartholomew get back home. Sure thing, bro. Bentley is easily the slowest character, moving with the speed of a refrigerator being pushed uphill.
I know a lot of players don't love him either. Personally, I adore the guy.
The moment I take control, I feel like an unstoppable force of nature. Spyro needs rockets, Bentley needs a club. Swing, smash, pulverize, it all feels so mighty.
I heard those big bullies calling you a wuss. You're not going to let them get away with that, are you?
He can even spin his club to deflect snowballs, which makes him look like a giant Yeti Kung Fu master, and I'm here for it. The whole Icy Fortress vibe already gives me Tomb Raider 2 memories, but then the game throws in block puzzles, and suddenly I'm having a full flashback. Thankfully, there are only 3 blocks to push, which keeps my sanity intact. If I have one complaint, it's his jump. It's so bad, it should be studied. But honestly, I enjoyed this level so much that I genuinely wish it were longer. Bentley may be slow, but he smashes like a legend. So Bentley needs help from the locals to build a rocket, but before we recruit anyone, we take a quick flight back to Midday Gardens to clean up our unfinished business. First on the list is the second Sparx level, Spider Town. If you love spiders, congratulations, this is your dream vacation. If you hate spiders, welcome to your personal hell. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to Crawdad Farm, except now you're fighting an army of 8-legged nightmares. It's a bit more challenging, but not by much. The boss looks intimidating at first, all fangs and legs and evil energy, but as long as you strafe and avoid his spin attacks, you're basically untouchable. It's a decent distraction, nothing revolutionary, but the real reward comes afterwards. Sparx unlocks the ability to locate gems by pressing all the shoulder buttons.
And that, my friends, is a full-on miracle.
No more running in circles for 20 minutes hunting a single gem. No more losing your mind over 5 missing gems in Cloud Spires. From this point forward, you press the buttons, Sparx points, and your sanity remains intact. Truly a game-changing moment. So where are the missing gems in Cloud Spires? Right there, in that corner. The corner I ran past roughly 1,000 times.
I swear I looked everywhere except the place where they actually were.
I feel like an idiot, but at least Sparx saved me from wandering this level until the end of time. Time to visit Bentley and Bamboo Terrace.
Hey, I think I saw some Rhinox run up to the top of that hill with an egg.
Thanks for the tip, bro. Here you just stomp up the hill, smashing every Rhinox and every rock that dares exist in your path. At the top you grab the egg, and that's it. It's short, simple, and completely brainless, and I had a great time turning Bentley into a 1 Yeti demolition crew.
We sure made short work of those Rhinox. Aren't you glad I was here to help you rescue that baby dragon?
Yeah, very. With the first 2 worlds finally wrapped up at 100%, we can lock in on Evening Lake, and once again the game greets us with a snow level. But Frozen Altars immediately stands out. The moment you enter, an icy fairy swoops in and grants Spyro Ice Breath, which means as long as you're here, you don't breathe fire anymore. It's a genuinely cool twist. Since we can't melt anything ourselves, we rely on giant laser beams to take down ice walls and evil snowmen. For the larger Rhinox, you have to freeze them first before charging into them.
It would be easy easy to get up to that treasure if you had something to stand on.
Very erotic voice, by the way. Congratulations. Again, please.
Purr. I don't know why, but I feel really cold.
Then Bentley shows up and I had completely blocked out what comes next. It's the boxing match against the Yeti from Colossus, and it's every bit as cursed as I remembered. You get different punches in a block, but Bentley moves so slowly. It took me a while to adjust, and by a while, I mean I lost 4 times before I finally managed to scrape out a victory by pure stubbornness. And just when you think it's over, the game smiles and drops a second fight on you, this time a 3-round match. By pure accident, I discovered that you can sidestep by pressing up or down, and suddenly the entire fight collapses. Once you sidestep, the Yeti turns into a confused piñata with legs. I beat him on the first attempt with this trick. Because of that, I'm placing this minigame as my 3rd worst in the game, right behind Nancy the Skater and the eternal god of suffering, Sheila's escort mission. It's not well made and it's an absurd difficulty spike unless you abuse the sidestep.
Fun fact, you can play this with 2 players if you plug in a second controller. Not that you'd ever willingly do that, but hey, it's an option.
After paying the fat bear again, we unlock cat hockey. You freeze cats and slap them into goals while also freezing your opponent because morality doesn't exist in this cold wasteland. I still prefer the hockey game in Colossus, but this one has its own ridiculous charm. Boxing trauma aside, Frozen Altars is fantastic. It's one of the few levels where collecting everything actually feels like a puzzle, because even with Sparx guiding you, figuring out how to reach the gems isn't always obvious. Lost Fleet has always been my least favorite level, so let's see if time has magically healed anything. What do we have here? Crabs that crawled straight out of Aquaria Towers, Rhinox running around under bedsheets, pirate ships rotting in acid, and cannons that let you shoot eagles from Dry Canyon. It's tedious, repetitive, and there are way too many of these things. The one actually interesting idea here is using the invincibility power-up to swim through acid, because nothing gets the adrenaline pumping like knowing that if it wears off while you're mid-swim, Spyro will dissolve faster than an ice cube in a sauna. Crazy Ed here lets us pilot his submarine to torpedo enemy subs. Sounds fun until you actually do it. You have to follow them through the most ridiculous patterns imaginable, wait for every green ring to turn red, then fire. And you have to do it twice. Trying to get all the gems is somehow even worse because you constantly have to dash back to the power-up every few seconds. It's gem collecting, but with a countdown to doom. Then the second portal hits and suddenly the level remembers how to be fun. Spyro jumps back on his skateboard and it's a full-on race against Rhinox. The stars from the Speedways return, and you can earn turbo boosts by doing tricks or flattening crabs like a sociopath. The first race is actually pretty easy, shockingly so. Then Hunter strolls in and challenges you himself. Nah bro, I'm good.
What's the matter? Getting chicken on me? Whack, 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 whack.
Actually, no, I'm not good.
I'm gonna destroy your furry ass.
And I kinda did. I had to restart twice because I completely screwed up and lost all hope of winning, but eventually I got him. The real monster here was the skill point, beating the course under 1 minute and 45 seconds. That challenge nearly broke my spirit, but once I nailed it, I felt like I transcended time and space. So yeah, Lost Fleet is still a stage I don't enjoy, even though it's one of the 3 main levels without playable side characters. The setting is bleak, the acid gimmick is exhausting, and the submarine missions are spiritual punishment. The races help redeem it a little, but not enough to make me want to come back. Hunter somehow manages to get himself trapped, which means he's unavailable to us for now. Good thing we already did the skateboard part, you clumsy cat. Fireworks Factory is next, the level from the title screen. I'll say it up front, it's one of the best. Greta returns, still talking in the most adorable voice imaginable, while casually kicking an unreasonable amount of butt.
Oh, hello! It's good to see you again, Spyro.
The place is crawling with ninjas who keep respawning unless you destroy their ninja boxes, which is exactly how real ninjas work. For the first time since Gulp's Overlook, you get to spit rockets, which sounds perfectly safe. The big Rhinox are defeated in the same way as the giant Nork brutes from Dark Hollow, except these idiots strapped explosive barrels to their backs. Who needs safety protocols when you can cosplay as a mobile firework accident? Greta, for reasons that defy physics, can jump farther than Spyro can glide. Then, because parodying crouching crouching tiger hidden dragon wasn't enough, she casually performs a full Matrix-styled slow-motion kick. Because that movie came out the year before and everyone on Earth was parodying it. We find a sign with a monkey on it and the Sorceress cannot even spell Spyro's name correctly, which really tells you everything about her competence. There are 2 portals we can explore in the meantime. Handle pops up and the first portal is basically a linear parade of enemies, nothing crazy. The second portal is where things get spicy. It has a combo power-up, something we haven't seen since Metropolis. Except this time you get infinite flight. The goal is to destroy 2 fire dragons whose bodies shrink as you hit them, but grow back if you take too long. So I recommend focusing on one at a time. I love this. The setting, the atmosphere, the dragon designs, everything about it grabs me. And that's the thing, I just adore the aesthetics of Fireworks Factory. I am thrilled we'll return here later. Bianca does her best to explain herself to Hunter, insisting she truly believes she's doing the right thing, and you can tell Hunter is 2 seconds away from writing terrible poetry about her.
The dragons used to live here?
Yes, this was their original home. But a long time ago, the Sorceress banished them to the other side of the world. She didn't realize the dragons were the source of all our magic.
Then we step into Charmed Ridge and immediately learn that the main enemies here aren't Rhinox for once. I mean, they're around, but the real villains are the cat wizards who boast the most ridiculous death scream I've heard in a while. The fairies beg Spyro for help because the princess is apparently being forced to marry some prince named Azrael.
Sure, why not? Let's add medieval soap opera to the mix.
The more you play this level, the more it reminds you of Alpine Ridge, except there you didn't have to pay a greedy bear to make stairs climbable.
You know, come to think of it, the wizards only agreed to raise the steps. They never said they wouldn't lower them again. Those guys are pretty clever, aren't they?
You win this time, you furry extortionist. Then we get a puzzle straight out of Spyro 2's Zephyr. Except instead of planting seeds to create platforms, our boy Jack is looking for a golden goose and we get access to 2 seed types. Yellow seeds create flowers, red seeds create slightly bigger bouncy mushrooms. The game expects you to juggle them, swap them, retrace your steps and basically run a botanical obstacle course. It's a neat little brain teaser and I enjoy it.
That's the ugliest goose I've ever seen.
Have you looked in the mirror, sir? Don't forget to smash the floor here. Then comes the reveal that the princess and Azrael are actually in love.
Good for them, I guess.
Nice bike.
Sergeant Byrd shows up for his last playable appearance and he's on a date with a Russian fairy girl.
Where have you been, James? We were supposed to meet in the temple an hour ago.
Which is adorable until cat wizards crash the mood and force us to exterminate every last one of them. The first wave of 5 is simple, the second wave of 10 is manageable, but then the third wave happens and the floor basically turns into lava. The real insult is that if you fail at any point, you have to redo all 3 waves. My strategy is to move as little as possible and let the enemies come to me. It's fine, but it definitely drags. Overall, I really like Charmed Ridge. Even after all these years, I still sometimes forget how to reach certain areas, and it's genuinely refreshing when a game makes me stop and think instead of just charging headfirst into everything. With the rocket finally ready to launch, we blast off towards the last homeworld, but of course, the Sorceress is not going to let us arrive without a tantrum. She straight up admits to Bianca she wants to murder every dragon in existence, including the babies.
What? All this time you only wanted them for their wings? Of course, you ignorant girl. I need them for a spell, so I can live forever!
That's outrageous! Bianca's had enough at this point. We land inside the skeleton of a dead whale and face Scorch in Scorch's pit. A Rhinoc turned bad, because why not? As you would expect by now, Bentley shows up to help and Scorch starts dropping eggs, which had me half expecting lava lizards to ruin my day again. But no, it's crabs. And TNT rats, however that's supposed to work. Who needs biology to make sense at this point? Anyway, in the final phase, he even drops an egg containing Buzz, the first boss. As if recycling your old villains counts as innovation. None of it matters though, because this fight is a complete pushover. It's just kinda there. Easily the most forgettable boss. Afterward, Bianca finally frees Hunter because she actually has a conscience, and also probably because she's tired of listening to him nagging about food from inside his cage. That means he's now available to give us missions again. Midnight Mountain is the final homeworld, and Bianca finally offers Spyro her help to stop the Sorceress, which is great timing now that we've done 67% of the work ourselves. This place immediately feels different from the other 3 worlds. The purple sky and the floating islands, the game sure saved some of its magic for the grand finale. I already have the 100 dragon eggs required to face the final boss, but you know me, we're not going there yet. Instead we hand moneybags and outrageous 1300 gems to free the monkey, Agent 9, who's permanently running on 3 espressos in a dare.
Anyway, I heard all about how you've been fighting the Sorceress and her armies and kicking all that butt, and I just wanted to say, huzzah! Yippee! Woohoo! Wish I could stay, but my homeworld's been overrun by Rhinox since I've been captured. If you happen to see the Sorceress, tell her I'll be giving her dancing lessons real soon, know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Midnight Mountain doesn't have the same spark as Winter Tundra, but it makes up for it with its secrets and some of the most intriguing level portals. In Agent 9's lab, the unhinged monkey reunites with our old buddy, the Professor, who informs us that Rhinox have taken over his island. Thankfully, Agent 9 arrives strapped with a laser blaster and the attention span of a caffeinated squirrel. When you stand still, you can switch into first-person mode, which makes aiming a whole lot easier. In third person, he can actually strafe, something not even Ratchet could do in his first adventure 2 years later. Most of the level is spent vaporizing Rhinox and birds. Later you pick up bombs you can lob in an arc. You already have this egg?
No, I didn't. But now I do.
The level does drag a little because we have to take a bomb across almost the entire island to blow up a chest. Otherwise it's a good time and the controls actually feel solid. Just wish he'd move a little faster. I can't shake the feeling that this is where Insomniac first started experimenting with ideas that would eventually evolve into the Ratchet & Clank series. Let's do some backtracking for the last time. In Evening Lake, we dive into Sparx' third adventure, Starfish Reef. And it's the exact same deal, except underwater. The starfish explode into smaller starfish, which is probably the most memorable thing about the entire place. The boss is a manta ray that drifts around aimlessly. I didn't really care for this stage, but at least Sparx walks away with the ability to take an extra hit. Sweet! A tiny upgrade, but the highlight of the whole trip. Our return trip to Fireworks Factory drops us straight into an Agent 9 mission that takes place entirely in first person. And suddenly the game decides it wants to be a budget shooter. And it controls weirdly okay if you combine D-pad movement with strafing. Though you still have to stand perfectly still to aim up and down. There's a hidden rapid fire power up near the start and I recommend getting it because this place is drowning in ninjas. They're on the ground, they're in corners, they're plastered to the ceiling. The trick to surviving this gauntlet is simple. Slow down. Never rush into a room. Always look up before stepping forward unless you enjoy getting surprise kicked. Once you finally reach the end, Handel gets himself captured. So now we backtrack through even more ninjas than before. I've struggled with this mission in the past, but today I cleared it in one go thanks to patience, careful planning, and a healthy amount of paranoia. It's a decent change of pace once you settle into the rhythm. Earlier I skipped Honey Speedway because Hunter was still sitting in captivity. Oddly enough, Sparx doesn't call it Honey Speedway, but... Is he fluent in bee, by the way? This one's all about bees, and to my relief, it's the simplest speedway. First try win. Those motorboating bears don't stand a chance. The Hunter challenge, though, is awful. He's on a boat escaping from yet another sheep saucer, of course, and the camera is facing toward him, which means you're basically driving blind. If you crash into anything, the boat slows down. Maybe I was just sloppy, but I had to retry this several times. The jumps are stiff and the whole thing just feels off. Thankfully, the race against the bumblebees makes up for it. It's great fun, probably the easiest race too, and the whole setting feels fresh compared to the rest of the speedways. I really like this one. With that, we leave Evening Lake behind and dive into the remaining levels of Midnight Mountain, starting with Crystal Islands. This place is inhabited by wizards who are absolutely obsessed with showing off their tricks.
Alakazam! Alakazam!
Right from the start, it's obvious that this is, without question, the most beautiful stage in the game. You can't compete with glowing crystals sparkling beneath a night sky. The land enemies are carved out of crystal, and this is one of only 2 levels in the whole game without a single Rhinoc. Even Moneybags tries to pretend he's a magician.
You shouldn't anger a magician, Spyro. I just might decide to turn you into a blue hedgehog or something.
In that case, I'd spin dash you into a pile of loose change.
There's a slide section that feels like a nod to Super Mario 64. It's eerily empty except for one lonely turtle sitting at the start. It's quick and harmless, but I had to do it twice because Sparx decided to take a coffee break instead of picking up gems. Bentley shows up for his final playable appearance and he gets to play a literal whack-a-mole. Just make sure you don't accidentally smash any of the wizards or it's instant failure. I actually enjoyed this one a lot, but it got extremely close. Then we get something we haven't seen since Nasty's loot. A thief flying around in a plane. And please, for the love of everything purple, always watch your flight meter because running back to the power-up on foot is pure time-wasting misery. Crystal Islands is a highlight for me. With its stunning visuals for its time, its goofy inhabitants, and its genuinely great level design, it leaves a lasting impression long after the credits roll. In Desert Ruins, Gus sends us to look for his girlfriend Tara, and sure, why not? I clearly have nothing better to do than clean up other people's romantic crises. The giant scorpions here look legitimately menacing, and the fire breathers feel like they studied under the electro norks from Terrace village. Except they've chosen to weaponize barbecue. Then Sheila shows up. Haven't seen you in a while.
Haven't seen you in a while.
She's getting one last chance to prove herself, and this time it's in a side-scrolling section. Oddly enough, it actually works fine. Her jump is still stiff, but since the whole thing barely lasts a minute, I can't bring myself to complain. Moneybags refuses to give us a password unless we pay him.
Okay, there was no password. I was standing in front of the wall switch. What are you gonna do? Sue me?
You know, maybe it's time for a Spyro Ace Attorney crossover so I can finally prosecute this bear for emotional damage.
Objection!
Then we get another flashback to Aquaria Towers, but this time the Manta Ray has upgrades and we have to shoot robot sharks, which is an automatic win in my book. At last we finally meet Tara.
I spend all day pressing switches and shoving boxes around, and you just waltz in here expecting to claim the treasure.
Wait a minute, she hates shoving boxes around as much as I do. She gets me.
And then she's gone. Where did she go? Nobody knows, because there's definitely not a double rocket being built anywhere around here. Desert Ruins is one of the few levels I consider mildly difficult. The enemies hit hard, especially when they gang up on you, and it's not always obvious how to reach every collectible. I guess we're not done with Tomb Raider, because next up is Haunted Tomb, an Egyptian-themed level that feels like Spyro wandered into Core Design's trash bin by mistake. The timing checks out since this game was released only 7 days before Tomb Raider Chronicles in Europe. The dogs here give us riddles, but calling them riddles is generous. Earthshapers are back and now they throw white exploding rocks. Sometimes those rocks spawn elsewhere. You have to spit these rocks at Earthshapers and caskets because that's the only way to destroy them. Naturally, this requires constant backtracking through hallways littered with falling rocks and pressure pad doors. These are, without question, the worst enemies in the game. Then comes the Hovercraft Demolition Derby, a mini-game I despised as a kid. You can shoot straight or lob shots in an arc. Strangely enough, today I found it pretty easy. Keep your distance, bully one target at a time, and hope you remember to bring full health, unlike me. Nice little Crash reference tucked in there. Agent 9 then shows up for a 5 cave gauntlet that starts with snakes and ends with Earthshapers, because of course it does. Aiming feels clunky, the enemies swarm you, and worst of all, when you die, the game makes you solve the same riddle every single time. It's testing your patience instead of your intelligence. My strategy is to herd everything to one side and fire like a lunatic. It's probably my least favorite mission of his. Finally, we get a giant snake slide, which is over in about 3 seconds. I'll say it outright, I don't enjoy Haunted Tomb at all. Too many frustrating mechanics, too many tedious roadblocks, and way too many Earthshapers, turning the whole place into a chore. The second stage without any Rhinox, Dino Mines, throws dinosaurs at you. And not just dinosaurs, but dinosaur cowboys.
At this point, I refuse to question anyone's profession. If a T-Rex wants to cosplay as Clint Eastwood, I'm not getting in the way.
There's a sneaky hidden egg right at the beginning, and I remember searching for it for an eternity back in the day. Convinced the game was gaslighting me. The sheriff has been locked up and needs help.
Well, gosh darn it, Spyro!
The gun-toting dinos are probably the hardest enemies in the game.
Well, gosh darn it, Spyro!
X marks the spot. Oh, hell no, not another one of those water tunnel nightmares. Only this time there's just one objective. Survive. Easier said than done. The controls are still as wonky as ever, so even when I've memorized what's ahead, I still get slapped by hazards I saw coming a full mile away. Plus I want to hit all the seahorses for the skill point, which makes this whole ordeal even worse. It only took me 5 minutes, but in those 5 minutes I failed 7 times before finally snagging snagging the egg, and even after that I missed the last guy twice more. Screw this mineshaft. Agent 9 returns for a first-person mission, but this time it's on rails. You can only aim, like one of those old arcade shooters your uncle insisted were the peak of gaming. I used to despise this too, but what can I say? First try. After that you get a moment to walk around freely, then it's time to say goodbye to Agent 9. I'll miss you, buddy, even if you're weird and probably need therapy. For whatever reason, Dino Mines has always felt slightly unpolished to me. Like the devs ran out of time and said, yeah, sure, cowboy dinosaurs, ship it. Many consider it the hardest level in the trilogy, and honestly, I'd have to agree. And while I love dinosaurs with all my heart, this level never really worked for me. Before we finally take on the Sorceress head-on, we make a quick detour into Harbor Speedway. Gotta love fish on hovercrafts. The time trial is easy enough, nothing wild, but then Hunter shows up and he's once again chasing a sheep saucer. This time he's strapped a pair of bargain bin wings to his arms, and suddenly we're flying through rings. And I have to ask, what is it with Hunter being glued to the camera? I don't see why it has to be so close. Whatever, this is probably the least broken Hunter challenge. Then comes the race, and this thing kicked my ass so hard I'm still feeling it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. If you're not perfect, if you don't hit every blue star, if you don't take every illegal shortcut, you're done. It annoyed me more than I care to admit, but that feeling when I finally crossed the finish line in first place was epic. So despite the frustration, despite the trauma, I'd actually say Harbor Speedway is my favorite of the bunch. And thank you, Sparx, for never speaking to me again. Spyro and Agent 9 take on the evil Toad in the Sorceress Lair. And for some reason there's no cutscene at all, which feels incredibly strange. This is the first time Spyro and the Sorceress meet face to face, and the game just shrugs like, yeah, whatever, go fight. Like all the previous bosses, it takes place in an arena and plays almost exactly the same. Avoid her attacks, wait for Agent 9 to blast down balloons, and use whatever weapon drops against her. Cannons, tanks, and eventually a saucer that controls so terribly I'm convinced it was coded at 3 in the morning by someone who had already checked out for the day. I can't stress this enough, the saucer is awful. I'd genuinely rather have Spyro fly like in the Ripto fight again. And then suddenly, it's over. This doesn't have final boss energy at all. It feels like any random mid-game arena fight. Pretty disappointing. But, uh-oh, I smell a rematch coming. We get a few cutscenes and Spyro is being interviewed by Bentley, explaining that he's looking for Hunter. In Agent 9's lab, he runs into the Professor and Elora. And man, I missed her. She was one of the best characters in Spyro 2, and the game knows it.
Now how many times have I told you not to tease that moose?
It was Billy's idea. Yeah.
Is that true, Billy?
My name is Hans, not Billy! Eventually, Spyro finds Hunter with Bianca, and he's still not thrilled about whatever romantic subplot is unfolding here. Then the credits roll with the same classic music from the first 2 games. Pure nostalgia injected straight into the veins. But you and I both know we're not done yet. Not even close. We're sitting at 98%, and to reach 100 we have to tackle one last Sparx level. But before that, I spot a bear that owes me money. A bear who has scammed, extorted, manipulated and emotionally damaged me since my childhood.
Uh-oh. Why are you looking at me like that? I've got to be going now. Toodles!
And finally, justice arrives. Flame him, charge into him, send him flying across Midnight Mountain like a fraudulent piñata. Make him regret every single lie he ever told. Look at all the cash pouring back into our account. It's glorious. Cleansing. Spiritual.
That's it, I give up. I'm retiring to Spooky Swamp to become a haiku poet.
That's not Spooky Swamp, bro. Where were we? Ah yes, Sparx. Bugbot Factory is once again more of the same. A big mazy structure packed with bugs. Some of them even run away carrying keys. The boss is the Metapede, and just like the fire dragons, he loses body segments the more you damage him. Except this time he eventually splits into 2 smaller centipedes. It's the only Sparx boss that feels remotely like a challenge. I don't particularly care for this level either, but the reward is worth it. Now the dragonfly is fully upgraded. He can break open treasure chests himself and even warp to any level through the Atlas. Nice! A well-deserved quality of life upgrade before the big finale. With 100% finally completed, we march into the super bonus round, Spyro 3's answer to Nasty's loot. This place is pure indulgence. Thieves everywhere, taunting you without pause. And there's 5,000 gems to collect. 5,000. 1000. This is the level that made my childhood brain believe I was rich. Multiple doors lock you out until you cough up specific gem totals. First is Lost Fleet 2.0, yet another forgettable submarine section. Then comes the real star of the show, the snowboard race against the Sasquatch 6.
If you lose, I have to slick down the whole course with my tongue.
I can't promise anything, man, because this one is rough. It took me 10 attempts to win, partly because I restarted the moment I made even a microscopic mistake.
I think my tongue is frozen. You better not lose again.
Sorry, Hunter. I almost pity him, but he's smiling like it's the best day of his life, so clearly he's fine.
Okay, good luck this time.
The trick is to perform stunts constantly, hoard turbo, and above all, don't fall off the track. If you do, just accept your fate and hit restart.
Yes! You schooled them like a bunch of frost-bitten, flat-footed, molasses-eating, lead-pants-wearing, cross-eyed glacier trolls riding slabs of plywood with sandpaper on the bottom!
Finally, we reach the biggest door, which leads to the least surprising twist in gaming history, a rematch with the Sorceress. But this time the entire fight takes place on that cursed saucer, which still controls like crap. Spyro sits way too close to the camera again, so half the fight is just wrestling with the view, while taking hits you didn't even see coming. But once you nail the timing, it becomes almost disappointingly easy. The music is also bafflingly anticlimactic for what is supposed to be the grand finale. So yeah, I'm torn on this level. I adore chasing thieves in the snowboard race, but this finale deserved more. So in the end, all the dragon babies are back in the dragon realms and we get the credits again, this time with the different levels than the first time. And if you manage to snag every single skill point, you can access the epilogue in the atlas. This part is genuinely fun because it shows what happens to a whole bunch of side characters. Sparx turns out to be a total player. Wait, wasn't she into Azrael? Uh-oh, do I see an epic sequel in the future? I'll miss you too. Spyro Year of the Dragon comes packed with a bunch of ridiculous and delightful cheats, including 2D Spyro, Big Head Mode, wild color swaps, and even a completely unhinged skateboard. Truly a Tony Hawk fever dream. This is the first time I've ever seen that thing, and honestly, I don't know what to feel. Amazement? Fear? Respect? Much like the first two games, this one also hides a secret Crash Bandicoot demo. In this case, Crash Bash. It includes both Adventure Mode and Battle Mode. And in Adventure, you can try out Pogo Painter and Polar Panic, complete with gem and crystal challenges. Beat those and you unlock Pogo Agogo, which also becomes available in Battle Mode. It's a fantastic demo. The moment I finished it, I felt a strong urge to replay Crash Bash. Someday.
And now to my favorite part of the review, the music and sound.
Spyro 3 once again fires on all cylinders when it comes to audio, bringing back a cast of energetic voice actors who breathe life into its colorful cartoon world. Tom Kenny returns as Spyro and also voices Sergeant Byrd and the Professor, because why not multitask when you're already in the booth? My take on Kenny's Spyro is the same as before. Ever since Carlos Alazraki's bratty little dragon in the first game, the character's turned into more of a straight man, a winged purple observer who mostly reacts to everything around him instead of throwing in punchlines of his own. It's not bad, but the real comedy these days comes from everyone but Spyro. Luckily, that everyone includes Greg Berger's goofy jock energy as Hunter and Neil Ross, who chews the scenery as moneybags like he's being paid by the syllable. Their performances carry the cutscenes with a blend of slapstick and smarm and give the game its comedic pulse. Fun fact, Neil Ross also voices Bentley, which means he gets to both scam you out of money and then punch himself in the face. Talent. The sound design itself doubles down on cartoon absurdity. Bonks, zaps, squeaks, crash noises, it's a Saturday morning fever dream. It's exaggerated on purpose and that's what makes it sing.
But let's not kid ourselves, the star of the show is the music.
Stuart Copeland, the drummer from The Police, is back for a third round. His background in progressive rock and world music results in a score that's bouncy, experimental, and full of unexpected texture. You'll hear electric guitar riffs paired with xylophones, jazzy bass lines mashed into tribal rhythms, and synth pads harmonizing with steel drums. It's wild and it works. Each homeworld has an airy, dreamy vibe. Action stages kick into high gear with percussion-heavy momentum. And when the game needs to ramp up tension, say a boss fight, Copeland obliges with tracks that feel more urgent, but never out of place. His rhythms are tight, his chord progression clever, and his melodies stick in your head long after you put down the controller. Ryan Beveridge is also credited for the music, though I'm not sure in what capacity he actually contributed, as I couldn't find anything definitive online. One detail I really appreciate is that each of the playable side characters has their own musical theme, and each one brings something a little different to the table. From Sheila's bouncy track with twangy guitars, to Agent 9's twitchy sci-fi groove filled with synths and stuttery rhythms, the music does a great job of reflecting their personalities. Sergeant Byrd gets a pompous military-style march, with just enough whimsy to fit the tone, while Bentley's theme leans into a grand, lumbering feel that matches his polite but powerful demeanor. In Sparx's levels, the music that plays is actually the main theme of Spyro Year of the Dragon. While it's a nice track on its own, I don't think it works all that well as background music. It feels a bit too prominent, it doesn't quite match the tension or pacing of the gameplay. It also happens to be my least favorite of the 3 PS1 title themes. It's alright, just not as iconic or atmospheric as the intros from Spyro 1 or 2. Here's the twist. Despite all that effort, not every track made it into the game correctly. Due to a rushed release schedule, the original NTSC version, also known as Revision 0, shipped with a handful of musical mismatches. All levels were supposed to have unique songs, but several ended up recycling tracks from other parts of the game. It's like Copeland handed in the homework and someone stapled the pages out of order. The Greatest Hits version, NTSC U Revision 1, fixed most of this. Suddenly every level played the music it was actually designed to have. The PAL version, the one I'm playing, landed somewhere in between. It corrected the most glaring issues but still left several mismatches intact. Let me walk you through it. Evening Lake should have had a moody new track. Instead, the original NTSC and PAL versions slapped on the gentle, peaceful Sunrise Spring theme again. Lost Fleet placed the happy-go-lucky Super Bonus Round tune, which is a weird fit for a haunted pirate graveyard. Haunted Tomb originally used the cheery music from Cloud Spires. Dino Mines borrowed Molten Crater's track. And Crystal Islands, for whatever reason, played Seashell Shore's Beach Bop. Imagine entering a glowing magical cave and hearing a track meant for floating seahorses. That's what we got. The Speedway levels were another casualty. Every single one reused Harbor Speedway's music. Fun track, but 4 copies of it? Come on. Worst of all, the final battle with the Sorceress. In the original release, the game plays the Sunrise Spring theme again. I'm not joking. That's your final boss music. Wrong in every way. The PAL version at least gave her the Spike's Arena track, which is more intense, but still not what Copeland actually wrote for the encounter. It wasn't until the Greatest Hits version that all this got cleaned up. Suddenly Haunted Tomb got its mystical Egyptian tune. Crystal Islands finally became a sparkling dream world. Each Speedway got its own unique track. And yes, the Sorceress got her real boss theme. These fixes brought the soundtrack up to where it was always meant to be, and they became the new standard. When Toys for Bob remade the game in 2018 with Spyro Reignited Trilogy, they based the music placements on the Greatest Hits version. So if you played Reignited and then went back to the PS1 original, you might have been very confused. Wait, why is this music here? That's why. So the sound design is brilliant, the voice cast nails it, and the music, when it's not accidentally assigned to the wrong level, is some of the best in platforming history. But let's hear some actual music. Here are my top 10 songs from Spyro Year of the Dragon. Number 10. a dynamic finale track that refuses to stick to one mood. It shifts back and forth between a slow, spacey groove and an upbeat, celebratory dance section, a standout conclusion to Year of the Dragon soundtrack that leaves the player both with a sense of closure and an urge to dance along. Number 9. Thumping drums and dramatic accents set an urgent tone from the start, giving the music an action movie flair. The relentless percussion propels you through trap-laden ruins. It's an action-packed soundtrack in the best way, making the level's challenges feel epic and exhilarating. Number 8. This track hits the ground running with one of the most energetic grooves in the entire trilogy. A pulsing bassline, punchy drums and a swirling electric organ give it a jam session feel that perfectly fits the level's frantic platforming. Copeland avoids airy cliches and instead delivers a rhythmically rich, upbeat piece that keeps your feet moving and your wings flapping. Number 7. A relaxed melodic homeworld theme that paints a picture of a peaceful afternoon. The instrumentation has a gentle garden jazz quality. Midday Gardens' theme is effective through its subtlety. Its smooth, pleasant melody sticks with you, and it's a safe, sunny haven between the more intense levels. Number 6. An energetic, adventurous tune that brings some unexpected warmth to the frosty landscape. Partway through, an acoustic guitar segment joins in, a surprising sentimental touch. This blend of rapid percussion and melodic guitar creates a dynamic contrast, perfectly reflecting Icy Peak's mix of chilly scenery and action. The track's ability to feel exciting and cozy at once makes it especially effective. Number 5. Whimsical and majestic, this track captures the enchanted fairy tale ambience of Charmed Ridge. Bell-like tones and airy synth pads weave a magical sounding melody, as if imitating twinkling fairy dust. Underneath, a steady drum beat and bass groove keep the energy up. Charmed Ridge's theme stands out for its enchanting melodic flair, making the whole level feel like a playful fantasy brought to life in sound. Number 4. A mellow, sunlit melody sets the tone here, carried by a funky mid-tempo groove. The instrumentation feels warm and laid back. You can pick out a smooth bass line and light guitar or keyboard accents that conjure a carefree vibe. The combination of breezy melody and toe-tapping rhythm makes Sunny Villa's music both soothing and memorable. Number 3. An upbeat groove dominates this place, marrying tribal percussion hits with a modern techno vibe. Copeland keeps it interesting by changing tempo and style mid-track, seemingly shifting from a faster celebratory refrain into a slower suspenseful section. Those dynamic shifts and even a cheerful sample punctuating the beat give Molten Crater's music a fun personality, all while amplifying the level's adventurous tone. Number 2. This Speedway theme races along with urgent, synth-heavy instrumentation. A wailing, siren-like lead tone stands out above the pulsing bass and breakbeat percussion, immediately evoking the adrenaline of a high-speed chase. The track's propulsive electronic groove is executed superbly. It wouldn't sound out of place in a Chemical Brothers set. I don't mind this one playing 4 times in the PAL version. Number 1. This isn't just my favorite track in Year of the Dragon, it's my favorite Spyro track, period. Nothing else hits quite like this one. A high-octane electronic banger with a ridiculously catchy melody and pounding rhythm that grabs you from the first second. It's got this explosive techno-rock edge that perfectly mirrors the level's ninja mayhem. It's pure adrenaline in music form and an absolute masterclass in game scoring. Let's wrap this up. Spyro Year of the Dragon is a game that's bursting at the seams with charm, variety and content, even if that content doesn't always land quite as gracefully as Spyro himself. There's a lot to love here and also a fair bit to critique, especially when held up to its two brilliant predecessors. Let's not kid ourselves, this is still a great game. It's fun, colorful and full of personality. But compared to Spyro 1 and 2, this one feels a little uneven. Like the team had one foot out the door, which, in a way, they did. Insomniac was already preparing for life after Spyro, and that's something you can feel in the final product. There's ambition here, but also signs of fatigue. A desire to go bigger with more levels, more characters, more mini-games, but not always the time or polish to make those ideas sing. There's also the issue of world building. Spyro 2 really nailed it by giving every level its own intro and outro cutscenes. It made those places feel alive. Year of the Dragon drops that idea entirely. You still get great stage design, but without those little character-driven moments, something's missing. I do like that you can flame most inhabitants though. I'm evil. The Sorceress is a solid villain, but she lacks the personality that made Ripto and his goons so memorable. The fights against her are underwhelming. And the first three bosses? They might as well be placeholder models labeled generic beast number 1. That said, I admire the game's willingness to experiment. The decision to introduce 6 new playable characters, each with their own unique gameplay twist, was bold. Most of them bring something fun or at least different to the table. Except for Sergeant Byrd, everyone has at least one mission that I don't care about, which is unfortunate. I appreciate all of them for what they add to the gameplay, even if I'm not the biggest fan of how Sheila controls. Sparx levels feel more like bonus distractions than meaningful additions, and the hunter challenges aren't all that fun. The moment Sparx gains the ability to point at missing gems though, peak design. Such a helpful feature, especially if you're the kind of player who refuses to leave a level with one gem left. The minigames, while hit or miss, are thankfully separated into their own portals, which means I could go skateboarding without it hijacking the main level. But it's also true that there are too many minigames that just aren't that great, even more so than in Spyro 2. And yet, despite that, the game has so many highlights. The music is a standout again, with Stuart Copeland delivering another dynamic score that shifts between dreamy ambient vibes and high-energy action tracks. Some of the best songs in the entire series are right here. The visuals are vibrant, the level themes are varied, and it still feels great to charge and glide through these worlds. I was more critical in this review than I was with the first two games, but that's only because this series means a lot to me. I played Year of the Dragon in the early 2000s, and at the time I thought it was the best one. Maybe it was the sheer scope, or maybe I was just thrilled to have more Spyro. But looking at it now with more perspective, I see a game that wanted to evolve, but didn't quite have the time or resources to do so fully. And that's why I'm ranking it at the bottom of the Spyro games I've reviewed so far. Still, that doesn't take away from what this game accomplished. It's the end of a beloved trilogy, and it ends on a high note. It may not have the pristine focus of Spyro 1 or the world-building magic of Spyro 2, but it does have heart. And dragons. Lots of dragons. By the way, I know I haven't even mentioned the infamous anti-piracy system, but this video is long enough already. Ultimately, the original Spyro trilogy remains one of the greatest platformer trilogies ever made. These games captured something special, a blend of tight gameplay, imaginative worlds, and music that still slaps to this day. Coming back to them now, decades later, it's clear they haven't lost their spark. And while Year of the Dragon might not be my favorite anymore, it's still part of something extraordinary. A trilogy that defined an era and made me flame moneybags with a smile. And just like that, our journey through the Dragon Realms comes to an end. From Artisans all the way to the Super Bonus round, it's been a whirlwind of portals, dragon eggs, and memories. These worlds were a huge part of my childhood, and before we land for good, let's take one last flight. This is my tribute to all those magical places we glided through. GFrom, you've been on the move ever since the PlayStation hit the market, and I imagine few people in the Dragon world today have glided as much as you have. Now why? Well, I don't know. I suppose some of us stay in Artisans, some of us stop at Toasty, some of us like to be world roamers. I'm a Glidin Man. Twilight, Bentley, Nexus, Bamboo, Robotica, Dungeon, The Crystal Islands, Breeze Harbor, Colossus, Gulp's Overlook, Aquaria, Cliff Town, Spider Town, Cloud Temples, Metropolis, Dragon Shores, Seashell Shore, Dino Mines, The Nork Cove, Blowhard, Treetops, Crystal Flight, Jacques, Cloud Spires, Sheila's Elf, Factory, Dreamweavers, Misty Bar, Nasty Slough, Stonehill, Frozen Altars, Dry Canyon, Hurricane, Sorceress, Harbor, Lofty Castle, Icy Speedway, Scorch, Magma Cone, Fireworks, Metalhead, Scalos, Badlands, Icy Fly, Idle Springs, Oasis, Haunted Tomb, The North, Crawdad, Enchanted, Canyon, Ice Cavern, Swamp, Mushroom, Dark Hollow, Fracture, Mount Zephyr, Dark Winter, Wild Philosophy, Toasty. I'm a Glidin Man. I'm a Glidin Man. And you're gonna keep on gliding. Oh yes, have to. Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching the season premiere of Season 6. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. You can also support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you like. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.